You know that weight is very important, especially on an adventure motorcycle, especially if you're riding off-road, if you're traveling quite a lot, if you're traveling with a passenger, if you're traveling with a luggage. The weight of the bike, it's pretty important. The trick that the motorcycle manufacturing are using is to present us a very light weight of the bike starting from the shop. For example, my Honda Transalp was promoted to have 208 kilos weight. It is actually one of the lightest adventure bike of its kind, of its range. But I'm pretty curious what is the exact weight of the bike until you add some crash bar, the skid plate, some hand guards and everything on the bike. I've built my bike in the last year and I'm pretty curious. I'm very curious actually I would like to know what is the exact weight of the bike, my exact weight of the bike. I'm pretty curious to find out, and today we're gonna find out. But until then, let me show you what parts actually contributed to a bigger weight. This is my bike, my Honda Transalp 750 2023-2024 model version. This year, as you know, we have a small update in terms of headlight, dashboard, display, and a few tweaks on the suspension. But overall, it's the same bike. Honda says the bike has 208 kilos from the factory. I'm pretty curious to see now what is the real weight of my bike with everything installed. So let's start with the parts which are adding weight to the bike. I'm starting with the Hepco & Becker crash bars. There are two types of crash bar, the tank guard, so-called tank guard, and engine guard. These were added to the bike. Also skid plate from Hepco & Becker. Everything from here has at least 10 kilos. They are claiming from the manufacturing that they have a certain kilo, but I didn't weight it. I'm gonna weight the complete bike. I'm just presenting you the parts which are contributing to the weight, which are actually increasing the weight. Definitely the biggest weight, or the highest weight comes from the protections. The protections are weighing quite a lot, at least 10 kilos, and of course you need them if you're making off-road, if you're traveling, if you're using the bike. Let's say only this fender costs 650 euros, and if you're calculating the protections, if you're calculating the damage you could do to the oil sump, to the engine, and so on, then it's definitely worth having a crash bar and some protections to the bike. Let's say the radiator guard, it's pretty light. I don't think it has a big impact. Even these small parts, even though they are not very heavy, but they are plenty of them distributed on the bike. So if you add 100 grams, 200 grams, 50, 500 grams from each part, then the sum of them makes a heavier bike after all. So let's continue. Other accessories which are contributing to increased weight. I think I made some few grams with a windshield from Isota. Then I've added a CHIGEE dashboard camera. I don't think this weighs about, I don't know, 250, 200 grams, something like that, with everything, with all the wires and everything. Heated grips, they don't count, maybe 50 grams or something. The seat was rebuilt, and yeah, I think it's a little bit lighter. I don't know about the fabrics, but could be more or less the same, so nothing here. I've added a quick shifter. What I've added, indeed, on my last upgrade are this alt-ride foot pegs, Adventure 2 foot pegs, which are slightly heavier than the OM ones. Let's not forget about the tires, man. The tires are very, very heavy. I mean, I've chosen the Mitas Enduro Trail XT Plus Dakar version, and I have to say they weigh I think double as the weight of the stock tire. So I've added a lot of weight on the tires, and plus I've added weight on the tube. The inner tube is a Michelin ultra heavy duty tube, which is very, very heavy. I mean the rear one, it's pretty heavy, so a lot of weight on the rear added. Same on the front, the same tires were mounted on the front, pretty heavy, plus the Michelin ultra heavy duty inner tube, which adds a lot of weight to the bike. So these are the accessories which are adding quite a lot of weight. Also, what I've changed in comparison with the standard bike, it's the side stand. Now I have an Alt-Rider adjustable side stand. I think it's a little bit lighter than the OM. It could be 1 kilo, it could be less than 1 kilo, but more than 500 grams. What else do we have? We have a service handguards, which are weighing 1.5, something like this, 1.5 kilo, both. Another part is the main stand, which is pretty heavy, at least 2.5 kilos, I would say, if not more. So 2.5 kilos from the main stand. I've upgraded the suspension, the front suspension, the Andriani forks. I don't know how much do they weigh in comparison with the OM springs, but who knows, maybe lighter, maybe heavier, I don't know. What I can presume is about the rear shock, the Öhlins racing rear shock, damping shock. This could be a little bit heavier than the OM. Now let's see exactly where I've actually made the bike lighter. With what type of accessories I've made the bike a little bit lighter. First of all, I've changed the exhaust. The OM exhaust weighted about 4.4 kilos, something like that, more than 4 kilos. And the HP Corse titanium exhaust weighs about 2 kilos. So around 2 kilos were saved by mounting the exhaust. 2 kilos from the exhaust. Another upgrade which really took out some weight is the rear rack. This is the Dylan's rack. I've made a separate video about it, and man, it's about at least 2 kilos I've saved. From the top of the rear bike, from the top of the bike, I saved about at least 2 kilos only by mounting this beautiful rear rack from Dylan. You have a separate video about this rack. And yes, indeed, on the rear I saved about 4 kilos in total with these mods. Yes, after everything being said, after everything was calculated in my mind, I'm now curious to see the exact result. So I think the bike now, from my perspective, before I make these measurements, before I will weight my bike, I think the bike it's now pretty balanced. It's pretty balanced, front and rear, with the suspension, with the new upgrades. I think I've took out some weight from the rear, but I've also gained a weight from the tires. I took some weight from the top, but now I have some weight on the bottom with the tires. The same for the front. I have more weight on the front, on the tire, and I have more weight on the side of the bike, distributed a little bit lower, I will say, with the protections, with the crash bar, engine guard and skid plate. You might say in this setup that you could have gave up to the tank guard. So most of you are giving up to the tank guard in order to have protections only for the engine guard and with the skid plate. So you can also choose this option to consider or reconsider some accessories depending on what you're planning to do. If you're riding more on the street, perhaps you don't need so many protections. Perhaps you need maybe some crash bar, only one crash bar, or the tank guard, and that's it. And definitely some handguards, which we saw how important the handguards are in a case of an impact, because these are the first one among the first parts which are touching with the surface when you're crashing or when you're falling left or right side. I need to be honest and say, man, what would have happened if I would have kept the stock suspension with this bike weighted so much? So yes, you need to think about yourself, think about your purpose of riding with a bike, and see for yourself what type of accessories do you want to have on the bike. And of course, you need to put in the perspective what you want to do with the bike. And then, of course, the factory suspensions which are coming on the adventure bikes, on most of the adventure bikes, on the Transalp, even on the Tenere, the springs are pretty soft. This is the reality. And if you're having over 80 kilos, you might have a problem adjusting or being satisfied about the stock suspension. Imagine you will add additional kilos, you will put more stress on the standard suspension, and you can imagine what you can expect then from the suspension, from the standard suspension. And I'm pretty grateful that the guys from SESTAMARCIA provided me this suspension upgrade. I'm pretty curious to know exactly how much does my bike weighs, because you know, I've started from 208 kilo as Honda says, but I'm pretty curious to see now, with so many mods, with so many modifications done to the bike, I'm pretty curious to see exactly how much does my bike weighs in this setup. We're gonna refill, make a full tank, and go on the right side. Now let's make it a full tank. Let's see how much does this beast weighs. Now, after so many mods, new suspension, engine protection, rear rack, new exhaust, multiple different add-ons, foot pegs and so on. Let's check out the real weight of my bike. I'm pretty curious. I did the same with my previous bike, with my Honda NC750X. I was pretty satisfied about the result, but now I'm pretty curious to see how much my bike weighs, because I'm also riding off-road, and you know, off-road the weight is pretty important. All right, so now we have a full tank. I have a full tank now. Okay, let's start. Full tank. All right. Let's go next to this street. There is an recycle point where they have this big waiter. Hopefully they will let me measure. They will let me weight my bike. Let's check it out. Okay, it's free. That's the platform. I will park here and ask for permission. The lady was very kind. So here is the waiter. Here's we can see. Now we have 0 kilos. And let's put the bike on. Man, I'm so curious. I'm so curious to see. Let me check. Let's see, man, the reality. Let's put it here on the middle. Okay, it's exactly on the middle. I'm a little curious. I'm so anxious to check it out. Just a second. I need to go over. Wow. 230 kilos, man. 230 kilos. This is the reality. This is the reality. Să trăiți. Am pus și eu să văd cam cât are pe cântar. Da. So, man, this is the reality, guys. This is the actual weight. The weight of my bike in this moment, with all the accessories mounted, with everything on, 230 kilos exactly. Not even 1 kilo less or more. 230 kilos. Unbelievable. Let's, if I include myself here, 335 it shows now with me. 335 with me included, me with my equipment and all. So this is the reality, guys. This is the reality. 230 kilos. Wow, that's a lot. With a full tank. What do you think about it, man? 230 kilos with all the mods, with everything, with a full tank. So I've added no more than 22 kilos with everything I've installed on the bike, but also with everything I've taken out of the bike, because I've replaced some parts, I took out some parts. But overall, if you make the calculation, plus with minus, minus with plus, we have no more than 230 kilos. So when you're thinking, I'm adding protections, I'm adding suspension, basically everything has its own price. But think about when you start to upgrade a bike which has by default 238 kilos or 235 kilos, like the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. Now in this setup, if you believe it or not, in this setup with everything I've added, with a full tank, the Transalp 750, my Transalp 750, it's lighter. It's lighter than Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. It's lighter than many other bikes. Let's say if you have half of the tank, at some point you get under 225, 220 maybe. So it's pretty satisfying, if you ask me. If you think on this perspective, I'm pretty curious, what do you think about it? You can imagine why it's pretty important to have a good suspension as standard. This bike had a pretty poor suspension as standard. Imagine you made all these add-ons on the bike. You add to the bike 22 kilos more at least, so 22 kilos more, plus you ride it off-road. I mean, the standard suspension under no circumstances could rise to a certain standard, so to speak. So my suggestion is, if you're planning to upgrade this bike, or you're planning to transform this bike, think about the suspension. Think about what this suspension needs to support. Another 22 more kilos distributed hopefully uniformly on the bike, or more in the front, less in the rear. So you need to think about it. That's why the suspension provided by SESTAMARCIA really makes a huge difference, especially on my setup, especially because I would like to enjoy this bike more off-road. So yes, it was definitely a worthy upgrade. Now you saw the result, guys. Wow, 230 kilos. What do you think? It's too much? It's good? It's I could have added more on the bike. I think it's balanced, considering that we have a full tank, we have full accessory on the bike. So the bike with a full tank ready to go, with all the accessories mounted, an adventure bike like the Honda Transalp 750, my Honda Transalp 750 has 230 kilos. That is less than a lot of adventure bikes out there, which are coming, some of them from the factory with more than 230 kilos. We're speaking about the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE, which has more than 230 kilos. Think about what weight will have a V-Strom with the with the additional 22 kilos. It will have more than 252, 53, 54 kilos. Imagine, will be more more heavier than will be heavier than in Africa Twin, for example. I think the bike, it's balanced now with 230 kilos. It would have been better, it would have been worse, definitely. But, you know, you're not riding all the time with the full petrol tank. I mean, you're starting with a full petrol tank, that's for sure. But at some point, you're gonna have with 10, 15 kilos, 14 kilos less at some point. So you're not riding all the time with 230. So I would say now a bike under 230 kilos, 225 most of the time, maybe 220 at some point, with all these accessories on it, ready to go with the almost 100 horsepower, with a premium suspension, with a racing suspension. I think it's a perfect combination so far, and it fits perfectly to my purpose. You need to find your purpose. You need to find the right weight for your bike and for your style, for your riding style. Please let me know in the comment section what is your ideal weight for your bike. I mean, what do you expect from an adventure bike, from your adventure bike? In terms of weight, the real weight, I'm speaking about the real weight with all the accessories on, with the crash bars and everything. I mean, what do you think will be the perfect weight for an adventure bike, like the Honda Transalp, perhaps like the Yamaha Tenere 700, like the Suzuki V-Strom 800E, maybe KTM Adventure? So think about it, what would be the perfect weight? And what do you think is the future in terms of weight, of the bike, of the adventure bikes for the future? Think about it, write in the comment section.
Kickstart the engine roar. Feel the gravel scratch the floor. Roads ahead and sky so blue. Arthur rides with dreams and views.